Okay. I think I'm going to hopefully fix this in this stream. Let's just get the music going right now. Holy crap. That was way too loud. Okay. Well, in the last stream, I think I figured out why it was acting up, and because I'm mixing concepts here. You really should never be doing like type comparisons or anything with a type in your code, specifically within your source generator, analyzer code, all that stuff. If you want to do comparisons, what I think you really should be doing is get type by metadata name. And that means this is going to change a little bit, but I think it will change for the better, because I think what you can do is the attribute constructor, and then you can say containing type. And that should be the internals visible to one. And then we can just compare that. We don't have to do, we can do this, but then that takes care of all that. And then we can just do that one. So we'll get rid of some things here to hopefully make it a little bit nicer. Okay. So let's put a breakpoint here just to make sure I'm doing the right thing. So now if we say this, what we could or should be able to do now is say self.getAttributes. I believe there's only going to be one. We can say 0. Symbol equality comparer. Is that the one? And you can say default here. And you can say equals. And so what we want to say is the 0th one. I think it's just the attribute class. IVTA. And they're true. So that's literally all we have to do. So let's put this here, put that there, put that there. Whoops, 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 whoops. Stop, 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 stop. Yeah, it's like, don't go. So what we want to say is the attribute class not null, and then attribute symbol default equals is the attribute class equal to the internals visible to attribute, and that gets rid of all this. Now what this did too is it made this thing have to expose compilation, which then before I went online I had to trickle up all the way through all the calls to get that to work correctly. I'm guessing at some point, if I ever get around to being motivated to doing it, is going through a big cleanup of the internal code base, because I have the feeling, no, not that. If I said other.compilation, yeah, you really can't get to the compilation that way, so you have to keep passing it around. But what this should do is it shouldn't break these two tests, because we already knew that they were working for the wrong reason. Now they'll be working for the right reason. But this should not break any of the tests currently that exist. And 201 failed. Why was I being so optimistic? Mismatch between number of diagnostics. What in the hell is all this? Target runtime doesn't support bi-ref-like generics. These are all ref-struct, and this happened because I changed. Well, I never ran any of the other tests after I changed this to being .NET 9. Huh. That's interesting. Well, I know that. What is lazy not? Oh, that's interesting. That is very interesting. And unit wouldn't be a problem. That wouldn't be it either. Well, I'm guessing I need to keep my my thing around, because the obvious thing is the what was I doing here before? Well, that don't help. Oh, there. Okay. That's what I was doing. Sure, save it. I don't care. Let's do this. Yeah, we'll got ours back in there, so that should do that. Now, always look here for the latest version of a particular runtime. I knew there was a reason I put that link in here. Yeah, 9.0. So we should be able to just say 9.0.0 now. There. Now let's run them all and see what happens. This is taking longer. That's a good sign. Because the other one did just failed immediately. And I get why I was failing, because the preview version didn't have support for allows ref struct, is what I'm guessing. And so that was throwing it off a little bit. Any moment now. Good, they all pass. Okay, so that's good. Let's actually commit something for once. 345. I think I was comparing the wrong thing to the other thing. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go to mockable method discovery. Is that the one? Because we had interface, and what I want to make sure is, yeah, let's just take that out completely. Okay, so now let's close this down. Let's do our little locals internal thing to see if it worked. Now I was thinking about how could I do a test with this with integration tests or unit tests. We'll come back to that in a moment. So right now they're both internal. Does this build? And it does. This is just this weird thing where if you're referencing a project as anything code analysis based, it doesn't always refresh, especially source generators. This actually is there. It's just you can't do anything with it. So if I come back here and I say perform arg any string, except we'll make that data stuff. And then we'll say var mock is equal to expectations instance mock dot perform new that. I can say expectations verify. Boom. Again, even though this isn't showing up, that's okay. I'm okay with that because that means it actually it is working. If I have 12 to this, I'll be like, you knew what you're talking about, but that's okay. We now have the ability to show that data stuff, if it's internal, it will work. And it does pick up the right thing. That's good. I am thinking at this point, if I go to rocks here in source, let's delete this because we don't need it anymore. Source test was just that. We can get rid of that. Did it get rid of it? And then the reference test was just the unit test thing. And now we're back to where we were, which is good. So now let's go into Visual Studio with rocks. And again, this was the culprit. And this is really what we should have been doing, is comparing the attribute class internal visible to and then doing this. That was the right thing to do. If I run all my tests now, and while this is running all the tests, the thing I was thinking about is I could create a rocks.integrationtests.outsideTypes project that would give internals visible to the integration test project, set up this scenario, create 2 tests to show that, yes, whether the parameter types are internal or not, it will work either way. Okay, cool. We got that. Excuse me. We got that working. And let's do the big old code generation test one. Yeah, I was about to say let's update all of the NuGet packages, because again, that project has a ton of them, as you're about to see if you've never seen me do anything with rocks here. It's going to get a whole bunch of types, and it's going to create mock types for them. And this is just to exercise the compilation, the creation and compilation of them. It doesn't actually try to exercise every single mocked member. That would be quite the endeavor. Someday I might do that, but that would be really tough to do, I think, and to generalize that, to say the least. So at least, though, this has always uncovered bugs that I've never even thought of. Unfortunately, I never caught this one. And again, this bug that I've been solving this morning and today has been because somebody where I work, this project that we actually use rocks on, discovered, because in .NET 9, there's a new analyzer that really tries to push you to not have public types if you don't need them. And I think that's a good thing for a lot of reasons. Just intention. Do you intend for this to be public? With a class library, you don't know, because you don't know who's referencing it. You don't know who could actually be using it. So those, to me, if somebody says it's public, it's public. In a console app, having something that's public, you probably aren't sharing or referencing your console app. Not saying you aren't, but probably not. Test assemblies, probably not. And so there's this new analyzer that's popping up saying, hey, you should move to internal. I think it's CA 1515. I'm not sure if that's correct or not. But I've now rolled off of this project back to doing the stuff I've always been doing, because now that project is stable. It's working really well. That's all good. It's good to see something work. By the way, hold on. I got to make sure that my son is off to work, because I think he starts at 3:30 today. So where is it? Okay. I mean, ultimately it's his responsibility, not mine, but I'm also trying to be a little bit of a helpful parent. So I'm off of this project, but he's like, hey, what do you think about upgrading it to 9? And I'm like, that's fine. Internally, we have a policy that is all about trying to stay on long-term support releases of frameworks. But that doesn't mean they're disallowed either. So 9, as long as you have the intention of moving in 6 months when 10 comes out, that's okay. So he's like, especially there's some stuff with Open API and Swagger that's changed in 9. And so he's like, I'd rather move to that. So I said, you should be able to. Well, then he found out that when he did that, this came up, this bug, because he changed all the types in the console app to internal. And I also had to remind him, if you have a warning, it should be an error. But these are warnings, meaning to me, it's okay to say if it doesn't fit your intent, if it doesn't fit what you're trying to do, suppress it. You can put it in your no warn element of your project file. You can do it in the editor config. There's places to do that. But that way you can say, no, I don't need to do that. So I said, just suppress it at that level for now, because it's worked until now. Just making them public again is going to be no big deal, keeping them that way. And I said, once I fix it and get out a fix, then you can make them internal. And so that's why I said, I'll figure that out this weekend. And I think I have. I think I figured it out now. But yeah, that was an interesting one. But I'm glad that I was able to convince him to try this out. And sometimes you gotta, I think, find clever ways a little bit if you want to try to champion something, especially that you've built, to say to people, here, give this a whirl. And what I told him, I said is, let's try this out. And if it doesn't work, if it causes us massive problems, I will put in the time on myself to go to using MOQ or N-substitute. I will get us back to that point. And so he said, okay. And other than this bug and I think one or two others that he's found that have actually been very minor and very small to fix, it's worked really well. And I'm glad. So now it has real world usage, and it's gotten some battle testing that way. And good, that didn't fail. I would have been actually a little bit surprised if this did fail. But that's good. I mean, it's good to get this used in something that's real world, for lack of a better term. All right, so do we have anything? 3 removed test code is no longer needed. So the last thing I'm going to want to do now is create that integration test one. So we're going to say add new project, and we want it to be a class library. We're going to call it outside naming is hard. What do I want to call this? Referenced? Yeah, let's call it that. Okay, so now what we want to do is put a project reference here to that. Jeez. Hit the wrong thing. There. And now let's have a I do stuff. And let's add a oh, come on. We want to keep it interface. I do stuff. Wait, what? Sometimes I don't understand what Visual Studio does. Close all these. Get rid of that. Okay. Let's make sure that this is in our handy dandy little format that we always have. I don't think... Well, what do we do for the integration test one? I don't think we need any of this. That's all we need. Okay, so we have I do stuff. Let's add data stuff. It doesn't matter. That doesn't have any things on it. That's fine. Except we want to call it internal data stuff. This is good its own. I do internal stuff. This is a Sunday, isn't it? And then I want to have a I do public stuff. Sounding very suggestive, isn't it? Except I do internal stuff. We want to have a void perform internal data stuff. Internal data stuff. We also want here is a shared, not a shard, a shared. Not a shart. So what we want here is an assembly internals visible to rocks that in a you showed it. There you go. Nice. So now we got that. So the internal stuff has an internal data stuff structure. Okay. Now I do public stuff. It's still going to be internal. But we're going to have void perform public data stuff. Public data stuff. This will have public data stuff, which will be a public sealed record public data stuff. What are you complaining about? Oh, for God's sakes. Fine. I mean, it's right. I should do that. Okay, so we got that. I do public stuff. Internal stuff. Okay, so now what we should be able to do in our integration test is add a add. Do we have visibility tests? Let's add that. Visibility tests. Okay. Now, this one's going to be a little different because we've always been doing this and having a namespace within here, which, fine. But public static class visibility tests, right? And now we're going to say, not fact. I am not using XUnit. Public static void create using public stuff. So now what we want, not that, mock definitions. So we want assembly rock type of rocks dot integration test referenced. I do public stuff. There. And we also want internal stuff. Okay. So now here's our expectations doing new I do public stuff create expectations methods dot perform arg any of public data stuff. We don't care. Var mock is equal to expectations dot instance mock dot perform new, just new it up, expectations dot verify. Yeah, expression value, shut up. And now let's do create using internal stuff. No, let's keep the public here because I like my stuff organized. Internal. I do internal stuff. And so now this needs to be internal. And now let's run these tests. All right, at this point, I'm good. I'll create what is remaining to do. This is off camera stuff. So to do, create, make integration tests, update version to 9.0.1, update changelog, publish to NuGet, close issue, party. I'm going to do that off camera. So, yeah, this has been an interesting one because it took a while to figure out how. I did the things I always do, which is I was able to reproduce the issue. Okay, that's good. Then I created a unit test that did not recreate it. And that got me worried because then I'm like, well, this is obviously an issue, but something when I'm running it in unit test mode is not bringing it up. And so if you watch my previous stream, you saw just how much I struggled trying to figure out how am I going to test this, you know? But then I sat there and I went, well, if I set it up so that I can have the projects referencing rocks and then launch the debugger, not break, launch, I always make that mistake. Launch a debugger, then I was able to see that yes, when you run it, the types, the assemblies that they were in are actually not the right ones because of type forwarding and all this other stuff. And I was like, yeah, that was a mistake. And so in this stream, I fixed it. I also am now able to have an integration test. The unit test I would still not be able to do, but the integration test is akin to exactly what I was doing in the previous stream by having that separate solution. So that now proves that yes, this did work. I guess I could, if I really wanted to be absolutely 100% correct, I should go back to the way I used to do it and then show that the integration test will fail. But I think at this point, now that I know that it succeeds, I'm good. So I'm going to do these two to-do things off camera. And then what I plan to do tonight is start streaming Portal Revolution. So if you are watching now or you watch in the future, I appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. In terms of Random Code videos in the future, I am thinking of a couple of things. I'm thinking of maybe doing a whole series of streams on Random.Code 2024. I'm not sure about that because when I did Random.Code 2022, there were some problems that were really difficult, and it took me hours to figure out. And I'm not sure that I'm going to have to figure out on the fly as I do this, how long do I work on a problem? Some of them were rather simple. Some of them were pretty difficult. So that's one thing I'm working on or thinking of going to do. Another one is there's a project that I've had in the past that I originally did in WPF and using expressions and dynamic compilation of expressions. And I'm thinking of doing a whole revamp on that, keeping it XAML based but using Avalonia and moving towards building the code dynamically using syntax trees in Roslyn and building and running them. So there's a whole bunch of unanswered questions that I have to still think about with that. But that's the next thing I'm thinking of doing. So there's, as I've said, there's always something to do. And it's fun to do those things. If I do Advent.Code, I probably won't start doing that until the holidays start. And then when I have, which for me is basically Friday at 4 p.m.-ish, my laptop over there is being shut down for about 2 weeks and 2 days or whatever it turns out to be. And I'm going to be in complete vacation mode. So I'm hoping to work on the streams like with potentially doing Advent.Code or this other project idea and updating it towards using Avalonia. Either way, lots of stuff to do. So again, if you're just watching, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Please subscribe if you haven't done it already. And I am planning on streaming tonight, doing a gaming stream, starting Portal Revolution. We'll see how that is. So with that, I'm done for right now. Thank you for watching. Take care, and I hope to see you in the future.